So tell me about your week.
Let's see. I think I had some successes like the day we talked
Very cool.
and maybe the day after.
Okay.
I was actually going to send you an email because it was too much to text, and then I didn't, and then I didn't even write it down and forgot, so I don't even know what it was.
So when do you find it the most challenging?
Well, honestly, I just forget. It's just not, in the front of my mind. And just the awareness is not always there
Okay. And what do you forget?
to be aware, like to even
Of what?
to be aware of what I'm feeling. Am I hungry? Do I really need to eat this right now? Yeah, that.
Okay. So is it an awareness of, I mean, do you eat food and it doesn't even dawn on you that like you don't get that, oh, I shouldn't be doing this voice?
No.
Okay. So nothing like that pops into your head.
Well, sometimes probably.
Okay. Okay. So give me an example of like the latest situation where you had that situation happen.
Last night, well, I was aware last night. Maybe I am aware and I'm just ignoring it. So last night, yesterday's just hard, or Sundays are hard because our church is at 11. And so when we get home, we eat. It's, like 3 o'clock or whatever. And then dinner comes around and nobody's really hungry, but I make it anyway. So dinner was ready. And so I ate, but I knew that I wasn't hungry.
Okay. So if you knew that, that's being aware, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you think of another time when maybe you feel like you weren't aware?
Well, I've had candy and stuff out, and I just eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't even think about it. Subconsciously just eating, like those old bad habits.
Okay. So let's figure out how much of it is conscious and how much of it's not conscious. So for me, I can't really say there's ever been a time when I'm completely unaware, but I can say there are times I choose not to think about it. Does that seem more accurate, or does it seem like, no, truly, I didn't even dawn on me, then later I was like, oh, I didn't think about that?
It's probably just choosing not to.
So there's a teeny voice in there saying, I should probably be doing this. I should probably be doing this. And the rest of you is like, whatever, shut up, have a cookie. Right? Okay.
Yeah, like you said, I think it's teeny tiny.
Yeah, it's not a strong voice, but it's there. You're aware that you're not doing it. You're aware that you probably should be doing something different. But that feeling of whatever the other feelings are, whether it's apathy at the moment, whether it's I'm busy, whether I'm just too tired to deal with it, whatever it is, those voices are way stronger at that moment.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's awareness there. I mean, I think we all have to, part of the empowerment comes in recognizing that we have choices and we're using them. Right. So, I've had some times this week too, when it was like, whatever, I don't care. Right. And then I had other times where I was completely aware and chose to pay attention to the awareness. Right. But it takes effort to act on the awareness. It takes a lot of internal effort. And so, especially at the beginning when we feel like we're still developing those muscles, it feels like sometimes like it's just too much at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I think it's okay to recognize it's like building any other muscle. If we're going to build our weightlifting muscles, we start small. We start with, little 10-pound weights, and the people walk by and kind of laugh at us and whatever. And we have to say, I don't care. So all I can do right now is 10-pound weights. And then we don't move from those to 20-pound weights. We move from those to the 12-pound weights. And we lift those for a while till they get comfortable. And then we move to the 14 pound, then we move to the, and it's a slow incremental progress. And there's days when you wake up and you're supposed to go to the gym, it will be helpful to go to the gym, but you're like, it takes too much effort today for me to deal with the gym. And I think mentally it's the same way. If we have, studies have shown that we have a certain capacity to make decisions in one day. In fact, I have to find out. I need to email my friend that gives me all these great things that she learns about in her practice. But there is a limited amount of information we can deal with every day. Mm-hmm. And so when we are overwhelmed and life is taking up this much room, we just don't have the capacity to deal with more, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's important that, most days aren't like that. Most days aren't filled to the max. And so it's important that when we can, we develop those habits, we work those muscles, we continue to work those muscles. Just like I can't use the fact that I'm busy as an excuse not to go to the gym on a regular basis. But there will be days when it's absolutely impossible to go to the gym, right? Sure. They're few and far between. And so if I will spend the days that I do have some time to go do that, I can develop my muscles to the point where when I miss a day, it really isn't a big deal, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm missing more days than not, then I don't ever get to that point where I'm building up. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, first of all, just be aware that you are aware.
Okay.
Right. And recognizing, okay, I do get this. I'm choosing not to deal with it right now. Okay. And even just recognizing that it is your choice and that you're making a choice already helps you in taking responsibility, not feeling helpless, not feeling like you're powerless to make any changes in your life. Because we are. It's just that sometimes we choose not to. Okay. And that's okay if that's what we want to do that day, right? How did it feel on the days that you did listen to that voice and that you did choose to act on it?
Well, I can't remember, but I'm sure it felt good. Like you said, empowering, and I'm choosing to do this, and this feels good. And
mm-hmm. If you can think of a specific time, I'll share with you one of mine while you think about yours. So I was at my sister-in-law's house, who is the world's greatest baker. And I wish I were kidding, but she's amazing. Mm-hmm. Her poor husband is like putting on weight because I would be so huge if I lived with her. It's not even funny, but she'll, like, to give you an idea, she might make 4 different baking things a day. Like, she's amazing. And they're all incredible. And she's as thin as a rail, and it's really disgusting. But, so at game day, she will always make 4 or 5 desserts. And then I brought lunch and somebody else brought a salad and whatever. And I went there in a pretty good state of mind and was ready and made sure I had breakfast first. And I supplied the lunch. So I knew, it was actually what the world would consider incredibly unhealthy, but it was delicious. And I was ready to have some. And I just committed, I'm only going to eat when I'm hungry, whatever. And I'll allow myself to have whatever I want at that moment. But it was interesting because at first it was really easy. And then we had lunch and I had like 1 enchilada. And then I allowed myself to have 2 tiny desserts that she had made that were fantastic. And at that point, then my body totally said, that's perfect. You're right at the stopping point. But my brain said, but I want more. I didn't try that. And I didn't try that. And I was feeling deprived already. Right? And I had to remind myself, okay, do I trust my body or not? My body's giving me this signal that if I eat more than this, I'll regret it. And if I stop here, I'm going to be happy. Do I trust my body? And I was like, you know what? Okay, I do. And so my mantra right now, my I always forget what the word is, affirmations that I'm using, it's still the same. I trust the Savior. I trust my body. I trust myself. But I really had to journal about, what does that mean? Well, if I trust the Savior, that means that I know that he can help me with the things I need help with. So lots of times I say I trust him, but then I don't even turn to him when I need help. Mm. That's not a sign of trust. That's a sign of distrust, right? Yeah. So it's like, okay, do I trust him? All right, do I trust my body? Well, my body's saying it's not time to eat yet. Or my body's saying it is time to eat. My body's saying it's time to stop. My body's saying, that sounds really good. Do I trust my body? And then do I trust myself to follow those two things, to follow what the Savior says. Do I trust myself to follow what my body says? So I'm working on that. So at that moment, I thought, okay, do I actually trust my body? And yeah, my brain doesn't a lot of the time. And so I had to say, okay, I do. I trust if I stop now, I'll be happier than if I go eat the other two kinds of treats that are over there. And then I had to say, do I trust the Savior? And I just had to say a prayer in my head that said, okay, I really feel like going to eat more of those, but I know it won't make me happy. So I'm trusting you. And I'm asking you to take this away from me right now. And the next thing I knew, I was just enjoying playing games with my friends, and the craving had gone away, and I was totally fine. And I left that day going, okay, that was a good day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what made me think of that was at that moment where I needed to stop, and I knew that my body was saying I'd had enough, there was some anxiety inside. There's kind of that pull and push pressure, right? Of, oh, this part saying I should do this, and this part saying, nah, you really should do this over here. And it's painful, and it takes effort to do that. Whenever I do it, I'm happy. And when I don't, I regret it every single time. So why am I still doing it sometimes? But I think it's the first step is recognizing that there is a choice going on in your head at that moment. And that it's not good or evil choice. It's just a choice, and they all come with consequences, and we have to choose at that moment. Is it worth it to me or not? You know?
Yeah.
So you're doing really well. Keep track of all the times that you're doing great. Try to learn from the times that you choose. Sometimes you're going to choose and be like, yeah, I don't really trust my body right now. I think if I eat 2 more of those, I'm going to be happier. And then learn from it. If you do that, sit down and go, okay, why did I think I should do that? What was I medicating? What was I needing at the time? What could I have done differently? And this is the same process, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you thinking about your trip coming up in regards to food?
Yeah, I have been thinking about that. I was thinking that I'm gonna have to be a little bit flexible of, if I'm hungry or not, because we're gonna be eating at certain times and food won't just be there all the time. So, if we're going to dinner and I'm not hungry, I probably will need to eat anyway, because that will be, dinner.
Right.
And I'm also thinking that I'll want to share meals. My mom will be with us, and then our 3 girls. So there's no reason why we can't all share meals.
True.
So,
You get to taste more variety as it is. And the one thing, remember when you were saying how when you stop earlier, you're hungry again earlier? And when you're in a different country, there's so many things you want to try.
Yeah.
Constantly. There's going to be snacking stuff constantly. And there will be that temptation of, I'm never going to be here again. I'm never going to get to do this again. I'm never going to taste this again. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes it is true. And so what are some things you can do to kind of have the best of both worlds? How can you be prepared to truly enjoy your trip, to try these things that you won't, be around again, and still honor your body and not abuse yourself and not come back with a lot of regrets?
Yeah. I don't know, maybe just try a bite instead of, a whole bunch of it, or.
Okay, so having less is one option, right? You'll be hungry earlier. You can still taste it. We always talk about like the first 3 bites are always the best of anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can forget that first amazing bite, and then you taste it again. You really enjoy it. 3rd time, you kind of enjoy it. And then we notice after that, it tends to slowly fade away through the next several bites. So that's a good idea. What else?
I could always take something with me, just save it for later.
Yeah, you can.
I'm gonna make sure when I'm eating a meal or whatever that I'm not overstuffing myself, so when the opportunity does come up later that I will be hungry or at least not stuffed, and that I'll, if I want to try something, I can just have a bite and I won't be overly full or feeling bad or guilty or all that kind of stuff.
Okay, good. So in a way, stopping, when your body says you've had enough is going to be one way that you can make sure to enjoy more earlier, later, right?
Yeah.
I'm just writing some of this down for you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so far we have, I'm wondering what turning this into the phrase. I just wrote it out. It came out kind of good. Take the best, but not the rest.
Yeah. The first good bites.
Yeah. Or maybe we should say, taste the best, not the rest.
Yeah.
Because that's something I tend to forget, is that after you've had the first several bites, you're not really even tasting it as much anymore.
Yeah.
Somehow we want to recreate those first few bites. They never quite come back the same.
Yeah.
But okay. And you're going to have to be just a little bit relaxed as far as going with the flow.
Right.
Like you said, you won't have control over everything. And you're on vacation. Now, are you going to be doing a lot of walking? What's your plans on this trip?
Yes, in Sydney, we'll be using public transportation and walking everywhere. We're doing a bike tour. We're doing a bike tour in Melbourne. We're going to be snorkeling.
Wow, lots of fun stuff.
Yeah. So.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay, so you're going to get lots of activity and drink lots of water, right? Yeah. Make sure you get plenty of rest so you're not feeling overly tired or when I get dehydrated, I don't feel so great. And then I really want to medicate myself with food.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you're going to have such a good time. I'm so happy for you.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is really cool. Anything else you feel like you want to do to be prepared for that, or anything else you want to talk about before we get into the chapter?
That's what I can think of.
Okay. Try to keep in mind that this is about enjoying food as much as possible.
Okay.
Giving yourself the gift of enjoying food.
Okay.
Right? Okay, cool. Well, we're talking about, this week the chapter is all about, challenging the food police. This is the longest chapter ever. Have you had a chance to read it?
I started it, but
it's so long.
Get into this book for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, you're struggling with it?
Yeah.
What do you think what is it that you're struggling with? Are you struggling to believe it? Are you struggling just because it's boring to read?
Yeah,
Are you?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just not too exciting.
It's definitely written as a clinical book. It's a how-to book, right?
Yeah.
Most definitely. Now, there's some other books that we can look at sometime if you want. By Janine Roth's books are much more entertaining, with kind of the same. She has the same principles, but this is more of a how do you live the principles thing, and hers is little stories that teach about it and examples and that kind of thing that are really fun. And maybe you want to look at some of those in the meantime. The only reason, like I said before, I've struggled to figure out how to use those or to recommend them is because once in a while they have some surprise foul language in them. And I say surprise because it's not her nature to swear in her own writing, but she will quote some of the things her participants say that can be pretty colorful. And so I'll be like, oh, dang, I wish that word wasn't in there because that's going to make it hard to recommend, Okay. But they are great books. And if that doesn't bother you, maybe once a book, maybe twice a book, then you would really love her stuff. And I can recommend some of those as well.
It's Janine Roth.
Roth, R-O-T-H.
Okay.
Like a Roth IRA.
Okay.
Yeah, she has several books out. She's been writing for probably the last 20 years, 30 years.
Okay.
But she does have some really good stuff out there. Same principles. I really like it. Even getting on her email list is she sends out a weekly newsletter that's got just a little blog post in it. It's really good.
Okay.
But, okay, so I thought, depending on how far we get, we can even turn this chapter into a couple of weeks because it covers a lot of good stuff. but it's a lot of good stuff. I'm like, wow, it's 20 some odd pages, just that one chapter. So basically it's talking about how to get rid of that voice in your head that's constantly making you feel guilty and telling you you're a horrible person. And I don't know about you, but man, I'd give anything if I could shut that voice up forever. Right.
Yeah.
I've gone a long ways in shutting that voice up, but I can't say that it's dead. So the way that they describe it, is just that voice that tells you you're good if you eat salad and you're bad if you eat chocolate cake. And I like it says the police station is housed deep in your psyche, and its loudspeaker shouts negative barbs, hopeless phrases, and guilt-provoking indictments. For me, I think that voice has been in my head my whole life. I guess maybe it has for everybody. I don't know. For me, certainly. What about for you?
I'm sure it has. I mean, I've always been dieting for as long as I can remember. And my mom, it's other people that are that voice too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes in the forms of a lot of voices.
Yeah.
But particularly whoever gave us a lot of criticism over that kind of thing. They start out talking about a study. Remember, they're talking about how 45% of all adults feel guilty when they eat something they like, even if they're not dieters. So just think about how much worse that is for people who are dieting. It makes it much worse. The people who are not dieting tend to feel guilty over nutrition stuff, and the people who are dieting tend to feel guilty over, anything fat provoking or whatever. And then they give the examples like, snack wells. Their phrase is be bad, snack well. Yeah. It's always about good versus evil. Guiltless gourmet. It's like you dieted and went to heaven, So we're really, we wonder why we make it into such a good evil thing, because that's what the world tells us it is. You're good if you do this, you're bad if you do this. What are some of the comments that you've heard or phrases that you've heard that make you feel guilty for eating? Oh, my worst is, are you really going to eat that? This makes you want to punch somebody right in the face.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to eat 12 of whatever it is I have in my head.
I can't think of anything.
One of my most recent was my mom said to me, well, I said something about like, do you want some ice cream or something like that? She said, well, I don't know. It's you that's supposed to be the intuitive eater. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a little passive aggressive. But it's interesting. Just because somebody makes a comment that's inappropriate does not make it true. Right. Yeah. And we tend to, as soon as they say something, we internalize it. And then we either get angry and we want to fight against it to prove it's not true, or we take it in as affirmation that what we were already thinking is true. Right. And did you get as far as the example she shared about when she ordered an egg white omelet with cheese? On there? She was on a cruise or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She got totally chewed out by the chef for putting cheese on her thing. And she's like, why do I have to explain to myself, to this total stranger, why I'm ordering what I want to order? And I think the rest of us feel like this need to justify to everybody. Well, I didn't really eat that much here, or I was still hungry, and I know that those voices go on in my head sometimes too, especially if I feel like, I'm doing this program so people are watching me and they expect me to eat a certain way. And it's funny that she was finally comfortable with herself, that she's like, I don't need to tell this guy why I'm ordering what I'm ordering. But she did say it's my client's worst nightmare. And I think it is. We don't want people commenting or noticing what we eat.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this chapter goes into like the way we combat those voices in our head. So it starts out by talking about food talk, and the fact that we can even think about what we're thinking about is what makes us human, right? My dog can think, but he can't think about what he thinks. He can't evaluate what he thinks. He can't evaluate how he feels. And so we can think about what we think, but do we really do it? Or do we just instinctively think it and therefore we believe it? Right? So some of the beliefs that we've adopted, and I just took these right from the book, that they talk about, the sweets are bad for you. We automatically assume that. I should not eat after 6 p.m. You should take in 0 grams of fat. Walking 3 times a week won't do me any good. If I eat breakfast, it'll make me hungrier through the day. Dairy's bad for you. I shouldn't have salt. Beans are fattening. Bread is fattening. Everything's fattening, you know. So those are some of the examples that they give. And they call them thinking errors in therapy, right? If you have a thinking error, the only way to deal with it is you have to go through and challenge that thinking error and decide whether it's really true or not. And in the book, they talk about Dr. Berne, Berne, and he talks about the different ego states. We have kind of the parent, the adult, and the child. And you and I have talked about this. You know, when I went to therapy, we really talked about that kid in us that really feels vulnerable and usually has beliefs that we developed as a child. And then we have this part of ourselves that's capable of nurturing that part of ourselves, that's capable of handling it as a caring adult. But, you know, for years and years, we handled it like an abusive adult. You know, who do you think you are? You're so stupid. I can't believe you did that. You know, just shut up and go away. You should just grow up and get over, you know, all these things that I would never in a million years say to a child, but I've said to myself as a child for decades, you know, and now I'm learning to be the nurturing adult. So have you read through what the different voices are that they talk about in this program?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so we'll just quickly, I'm not going to go through all the details on it, but let's just make sure that you kind of understand the gist of what they all are. So we have the nutrition informant. How would you describe in your own words what that is?
Oh yeah. Just, you know, what's the food made of? How much fat, how much calories, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Well, think about the word informant. Excuse me, my lips are so dry. What does the word informant conjure up in your head?
I don't know.
If you were in World War II, Nazi Germany, and your neighbor was an informant, what does that mean?
Spy.
Yeah, they're like spying on you in order to destroy you somehow, right? To do something negative is going to happen. If they see you doing anything that they think you shouldn't be doing, or the rules that have been set up say you shouldn't do, they're going to tattletale on you and you're going to be in huge trouble, right? So this voice of the nutrition informant is like watching your nutrition, but to destroy you, to say, oh my gosh, you shouldn't be eating that ice cream, right? That's terrible. You know you shouldn't do that. That's bad for you, right? Or you know, there's 1,000 different examples. You shouldn't be putting butter on your toast. You're already fat enough. Don't put butter on your toast, you know? So it's looking at nutrition, but in a way that is designed to keep you as skinny as possible and to keep you dieting. Okay, so that's basically the job of the nutrition informant. And we've had that voice going on forever. And what they want you to do is learn how to turn the nutrition informant into the nutrition ally. So if you think of the word ally, especially, you know, think about war again. What's an ally?
A friend.
Yeah, somebody who's on your side, somebody who wants you to succeed, somebody who's helping you. So how can we turn that voice of the nutrition informant into the voice of the nutrition ally? What would you say is common sense on there?
I don't know. I guess just being aware of the nutrition, but not judging.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent example. Excellent example. One of the ways that they describe it in here is like having, if you had 2 equally nutritious or satisfying things, and one of them was more nutritious than the other, then that voice in your head might say, oh, you know, you love, let me see an example. Like, I have never had a problem with fat-free milk. I grew up eating fat-free milk, doesn't bother me at all. So if I have a choice between whole milk and fat-free milk on my cereal, it's easy for me to choose fat-free milk, right? Because to me, it has 0 difference. And well, to be honest with you, I have discovered lately I like 1% better. So let's say 1% at whole. Oh, actually, that is a good example. So the nutrition informant would say, you're having 1% milk. You don't need those extra 30 calories, right? That's 30 more calories you don't even need, and you're just going to be so fat if you eat that. Nutrition Ally says, you know what? So the whole milk is like 90 calories more than the 1%. 1% is about 30% more than this, but which do you like best? You know, does it make a difference? What can you have that's just as delicious to you that is still healthy for you? Okay, cool. Go with that one. 1% is great. That's an awesome choice. You know, it's giving you facts that are trying to help you. Now, if I'm going out for ice cream, I have learned that I want the best of the best ice cream, even if it's double the calories, even if it's whatever. Because whenever I choose diet ice cream, I'm so disappointed. And I don't feel like I had that treat I wanted. So I would rather have a scoop of Ben & Jerry's than a huge bowl of Weight Watchers ice cream. Mm-hmm. Right? And so that's where the nutrition informant would be like, I can't believe you're having Ben & Jerry's ice cream. You can't have that. You need to have the diet. If you're going to give in, be stupid enough to have ice cream at all, which you shouldn't do because it has no nutritional value in it, then you should at least have the Weight Watchers ice cream. Right? And the nutrition ally would say, okay, yeah, this is more nutritious than this one, but in reality, you're going to eat a lot less if you have this one. And so, you know, it's probably a wash. It's just more factual and helpful. So if you think about it, when you have a choice between two things and you love them equally, the nutrition ally is going to help you know which one is probably the better choice. Right? But it's not going to go at the expense of your satisfaction. Right? So yeah, so you want to kind of tweak that voice and change it from being this informant that's there to make you miserable to an ally that's there to help you.
Okay.
And later on in the book, when we get into what gentle nutrition is, we'll get into that a lot more. But right now, you don't even want to worry about the nutrition part of it. Just, you know, unless you already have a choice where you've got two things you love equally and one of them's better for you, go for it. You know, but don't let that be the thing that is your driving force on what you're going to choose to eat. Right? So they get into gentle nutrition later. So those are the nutrition voices. Then you have the diet rebel versus, how they do it? Yeah, the diet rebel versus the diet ally. Let me find that here really quick. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, not diet ally. I knew that was not right. Rebel ally. There you go. Shut up, Serial. I need to do that. Okay. All right. So we have the diet rebel. Explain that one to me. If you had to tell somebody else what the diet rebel is, what would you say?
I didn't read this part.
Okay. So the stupid thing from Texas has this decision to call me constantly. Okay. So the diet rebel is that voice when somebody says, you know, you really would be so much happier if you lose 20 pounds. It's that little voice that comes up inside you that gets like angry that they said anything, frustrated that they're sticking their nose in where it doesn't belong, and judging you. You know, that voice that comes up and it makes you feel pretty rebellious. Like I just said, if somebody says, should you really be eating that? That this voice comes up that gets angry for me. That's like, okay, first of all, none of your business. Second of all, I'll eat what I want. And they describe it as being angry, determined, and rebellious. Right? I totally get that. And the kinds of things that it says are, you know, you're not going to tell me to eat plain broiled chicken. Right? I deserve to have something that's delicious. Or I'll show you. You think I should lose 5 pounds? I'm going to gain 6. Right? Let me see how many cookies I can stuff down before mom comes back in the room. Right? Or before my husband comes back in the room. Mm-hmm. I can't wait until my husband goes out of town so I can just eat what I want without anybody judging me. Okay? I have felt that way many, many times before. So it's just that need to defend ourselves. Right? The problem is it almost always results in sabotaging what we really want. Right? So I can want to lose the same 20 pounds that somebody else tells me I should lose. But the minute they tell me that, it's like this need to rebel is stronger than my need to lose the 20 pounds. And then I end up rebelling, doing stupid things, sabotaging myself, and then I'm just mad at myself even more. Right? So we get into this vicious cycle where we're trying so hard to keep everybody out of our boundaries and to maintain our boundaries that we end up hurting ourselves in the process. One of the examples that they give is, about a woman whose husband is a lawyer, and he wants her to be very, beautiful and, whatever, be proud of her when he goes out to dinner with her and that kind of stuff. And he was constantly saying things to her. And, maybe that's in a different chapter. No, I think that's the right one. Anyway, was constantly trying to make her feel guilty. And so she would sneak eat when he wasn't there and that kind of thing. And that's where the forget you eating comes into play. Forget you, I'll eat whatever I want, whenever I want. And the problem is the rebellious behavior usually has no limits. Like there's nothing we won't do to protect our own boundaries, right? Even if it's destructive. And that's when they say that's when severe overeating tends to happen. Well, I know that's been the case with me for a long time. That has been really difficult for me to deal with other people who feel like they should control my eating. And so, give me some examples of, how often have you felt the need to kind of protect your own boundaries? You have people in your life that you feel like overstep those boundaries?
I don't think so. I mean, I think maybe my mom does, but not very often.
That's
my
good.
grandpa did, but he's gone, so I don't have to worry about him anymore.
Who?
My grandpa.
Oh, he was one of those inappropriate things. Do you ever find that voice lives on in your own head, even if other people aren't saying it?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, sometimes we like to carry on the things that bothered us. We just keep it going ourselves. So changing that into the rebel ally. Okay, I love this because, like I said, I need it several times. The rebel ally is your ability it's finding your voice to protect your boundaries in a way that actually works and is healthy, right? So when somebody says to you, wow, have you been gaining weight? Which I don't know many people that would say that.
Yeah.
Or even when people say, wow, are you losing weight? Sometimes that bothers me just as much because number one, I may not have lost any weight and I feel like you're just making up garbage stories. Or number two, I get nervous. Like when I did lose a huge chunk of weight and people would say things like, whoa, you look so good. Wow, I didn't even recognize you, all that stuff. There's a part of me that says, okay, so basically you're telling me I looked like garbage before. Yeah. And honestly, I get to the point where I don't want to talk about my weight to anybody. And I don't want to talk about your weight. And I don't want to talk about what we eat or should eat. Or, I just want to be a normal human being. And so I have to put these boundaries up where I just say, I'm really not comfortable talking about my weight. Or I don't know how you say it it depends on who it is, right? But you can say, I'm just much more comfortable focusing on the other parts of our relationship than about food, or I'm not comfortable with you talking about the things that I'm eating, or please don't give me your comments on what I should and shouldn't be eating, whatever. But it's kind of that courage, that voice that you find that allows you to stand up for yourself out loud rather than just wishing you could. Because I know when I felt like other people have invaded my boundaries on food, most of the time I say nothing, I just fume. Mm-hmm. And I get resentful, and then I try to eat it down, right? One of my examples is my dad one time. So my dad's a very large man, has been my entire adult life. And one time he made some chip dip or something. And I was on Weight Watchers at the time, and I was trying to be really good. And I went to his house, and I knew he was going to have tons of food there. And I made a decision I wasn't going to eat when I went. And he kept saying, well, try this new dip. And I was like, oh, I'm really not hungry right now, Dad. I just had dinner. I'm full. And then a few minutes later, I'd say, no, you really have to try this dip. I'd say, no, really, I'm not hungry right now. He finally picked up a pretzel rod, dipped it in the dip, and put it in my mouth. I was so floored that I felt so invaded. It's such a dumb thing, but I felt so like, not only had you walked over my boundaries, you had like stomped down the fence and you were just doing whatever. I was so offended. but I didn't say a thing, right? I didn't say anything. I just ate the thing and I was mad. And I think now, no, what could I have said? You know, what could I have said? I could have said, you know, I made a decision not to eat when I come over here. I would really appreciate it if you let me decide what I'm going to eat, whatever. But so turning it into that voice of the rebel ally that says, yeah, I do get to defend my own boundaries, but I'm going to do it in a way that is a friend to myself, that supports me and what I need, not destroys me so that I can prove to you that I'm independent.
Yeah.
So what are some examples where you wanted to say something to protect yourself, but haven't? Can you think of any?
The only thing I can think of right now is there was an older guy in our ward that commented on my losing weight, and if I remember correctly, I hadn't lost any weight.
I hate that. See, you just don't comment on people's weight for that reason.
Yeah. And he just, or no, you know what it was? I can't remember where I was at with things, but it was like I wasn't dieting, but I was just trying to, you know, eat better, whatever it was. I can't remember. And he was like, how'd you do that? Or what did you do? And I'm like, oh, you know, I just am eating better. And he tried to like tell me like, no, you know, you're doing something or something like that. And I just remember like, you know, this is none of your business, but I didn't say anything.
Yeah. It's so hard when you feel like you need to defend yourself, but you really don't know how to do it, especially if you're trying not to offend anybody.
Right.
The other day, somebody in our family grabbed my daughter's stomach. She's like 19, very conscientious about her stomach. And this person gave him a hug and said, wow, you lost weight, and literally pinched their stomach. And she's a joker, and even if she's awkward, she won't tell you that. And she just joked it off and laughed it off. And I felt the need to say something to defend her, you know? And I was like, so I finally just said, you know, you really need to not comment on people's weight. And he's like, but it was a positive thing. It was like, you know, she's doing great. And I was like, it doesn't matter. Don't talk about people's weight. You can tell her she looks beautiful. You can tell her she's looking healthy. You can tell her all sorts of things, but you never grab somebody's stomach and you never ask them how much they weigh or if they're losing weight or gaining weight. Because if she gained weight, now she feels really horrible because what you're saying is, I'm noticing your weight.
Yeah.
I'm noticing how fat you are or aren't. And yeah, it's like, I don't want you noticing that. Well, how about noticing if I'm kind to other people? How about noticing if I'm getting good grades in school? How about noticing? But please don't just sit and worry about how much I weigh.
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. Another voice is the food anthropologist. And that's probably what you're thinking of before. The food anthropologist, if you think about like a scientist who's just a neutral observer, right? So the food anthropologist notices everything. Remember we talked about being insanely curious?
Mm-hmm.
That's your food anthropologist. So your food anthropologist is going to notice everything about food and give you that information, but there's no judgmental voice. There's no anything like that. It's just the facts. So you might be on your trip and say, well, everybody's going to stop at this dessert place that's supposed to be famous. I'm sure there's going to be, you know, lots of good food there. I just ate lunch an hour ago. I'm not hungry yet. And it's going to think through facts, but it's not going to tell you what to do, and it's not going to be judging you on whatever you decide. It's just going to make sure you have all the facts.
Okay.
That makes sense? So for instance, here's some example statements that they give. I skipped breakfast and was ravenous by 2 o'clock. That's a fact. Mm-hmm. So that's something you can learn from. Okay, well, what could I do to make sure I'm not ravenous by 2 o'clock? Well, I could eat breakfast. Or I could have lunch sooner. I could plan something out. There's options, but it's simply giving you the fact. Or I ate 10 cookies. That's a fact. It's not saying, oh my gosh, and I'm such a pig. I don't know how I did that. It's saying I ate 10 cookies. Okay, I wonder, why did I eat 10 cookies? How does that feel? How do I physically feel? How do I emotionally feel? You know, and so you're able to make decisions based on facts. This one says, I experienced guilt after eating dessert with dinner. I wonder why I felt guilty about that. Well, let's see. Did I eat past full? No, I didn't eat past full. I actually felt pretty good. And it could start evaluating, what was because I was eating next to Aunt Martha, who's always commenting on my weight? Is that why I felt guilty about it? Did I feel guilty because, I really was past full and I just chose to ignore that? What happened? But the food anthropologist is only giving you the fact, oh, I felt guilty when I ate dessert after dinner. So it's giving you facts. And then they kind of encourage keeping an intuitive eating journal to kind of get that food anthropologist voice working for you. Just keep track of the facts so that you can learn from them. I think in a way, I don't often feel like you have to have an actual journal, but I do feel like it might be helpful for you where you have a tendency not to write things down. And then later when you want to recall what happened and what you learned from it, you're like, I don't remember anymore.
Yeah, I can't remember anything. It's terrible.
Yeah. So it might be helpful to consider having a journal that's kind of like your food anthropologist voice, right? Ate breakfast at 7 a.m. Felt good. Noon, found myself eating cookies without thinking about it. Was too full. 1 o'clock, just keeping track of the facts so that if you don't have time to evaluate what those facts are and to even learn from them at the moment, the facts are down for you to remember.
Yeah.
To deal with later. Right?
Okay.
So yeah, that would be an interesting way to study that so that you at least can go back and go, okay, well, this is interesting. Now I can look at this and say, why was I ravenous at 2 o'clock?
Yeah.
Something like that. But it can help you sort through the facts. It can keep you from getting caught up in the emotion of it. It can keep you in touch with kind of those inner signals, right? How biological signals, psychological signals as well. If you're feeling guilty because you're sitting next to Aunt Martha when you eat dessert, that's a psychological signal that you're being self-conscious, or you're feeling judged, or whatever. So those are all things to keep track of so you can learn from them, right? And then my favorite voice, well, obviously we'll get to the voice of the intuitive eater, but one of my favorite helpers is the nurturer. And that's that really soothing, soft voice that's like the grandma or your best friend. If you told your best friend what was going on, how would they respond to you? They're going to be nurturing. They're going to be kind. They're going to help you look through stuff. They're going to be hopeful, right? Helping you look forward to what choices you do have for next time. And they're going to assure you that you're still a good person, that you deserve, whatever it is that you need, whether that's food or love or peace or boundaries or respect or whatever it is that you need. The nurturer is going to help you see that you deserve that, right? Help you find ways to get that. And it's one of the most significant tools that you can develop to become the intuitive eater, is that nurturing voice inside of yourself. And then at the end, it talks about the intuitive eater. And that's really a conglomeration of the food anthropologist that looks at the facts, the nurturer, the rebel ally, and the nutrition ally. So they're just saying those are kind of 4 parts. Those different kinds of voices are ones that you can use to help you kind of get in touch with this intuitive eater. So if you can recognize when the negative ones are popping up, then you can turn those into the positive ones. So some examples of, what an intuitive eater would say, combining all of these voices, would say like, okay, that little rumble in my stomach right now, that means I'm hungry and that I need to eat. So what do I feel like eating? Right? Or what do I feel like eating for dinner tonight? What sounds good to me? Right? That's a good nutrition or intuitive eater voice. Or it feels so good to be out of diet prison. That's a good intuitive eater voice. Mm-hmm. And, you might find that you're in the middle of a meal and the intuitive eater voice just knows that you're satisfied, right? That's how I was at my sister-in-law's house last week. I just knew it. It was like, no, that's a good point right there. And sometimes mentally there's no struggle to keep going. And sometimes you have to pull up that nurturing voice. For me, it was saying a prayer, saying, I want to be okay right now. And everything is okay. There's no reason to be stressed out. And a prayer kind of talks to you in the same way you're talking in a nurturing voice. right? When you're saying that kind of a prayer. Sometimes you might be at a restaurant and your eyes just lock on that part of the menu for that food that just is going to meet your craving. That's an intuitive eater voice, right? You don't have to have all the nutrition info letting you know if it's okay to eat it or not. And it says in the last stages of becoming an intuitive eater, that voice is going to prevail most of the time, but sometimes you still have to kind of call upon some of those other voices, like the food anthropologist, the nurturer, the rebel ally, or the nutrition ally, to kind of help you get back in touch with the intuitive eater. That's exactly what I had to do at game day, right? Normally I have times where it's totally easy, and then sometimes for some reason it's hard, and I have to go, I wonder why is this hard for me right now? Okay, well, what am I going to do? This is what I want to do. Let's work through it. And by the end of the day, I felt great, right? But I had to really work on it. So, like you said, those voices come up for us at different times in life, but pretty much everyone has them. Most everybody has them. But if you were like a kid who grew up in a family that had zero judgment and no problems with food, we might not have come up with it until like elementary school or junior high. Some of us dealt with it at home as kids, so we had those voices in our head from the time we were little kids. But either way, we got to change them. So it really doesn't matter when it started, except for if that helps us to identify things. But the point is, it's up to us now to be the nurturer. No one else is going to do it for us.
Yeah.
Time to be kind to yourself. Time to be kind to yourself. So the whole second part, okay, it gives a whole bunch of examples, but this next section that we'll talk about next week is all about self-talk. And I like it I kind of wish they had made a whole separate chapter, because it's all about how we can change the negative self-talk that we have going on. And I know you deal with that just like I do, and how to change it. And it's going to go into the different types of negative thinking that we have and how we can turn those around. So if it's okay with you, I think we'll just extend this into next week or not next week, because we won't be talking now till, what day is it? I got to look on here, calendar.
Well, I leave the 26th and I'm back on the 11th. So I could do Monday morning, but it's Christmas Eve. That doesn't bother me, but you'll probably have family here.
Yeah, I have that week canceled just because I'm in charge of the Christmas Eve party every year.
Okay.
So that'll be a little bit crazy. So I was planning on our next one. Now, normally we would have done it on Monday the 7th, but since you're gone and there's nobody else in the class, we'll just wait and do it when you're back on the next Monday, the 14th. Okay. Does that sound okay?
Yep.
All right. That sounds good. And then if you need any support, you want to be accountable, all that stuff, we can do that all holiday long. I don't care if it's Christmas Day or whatever. That's 2 seconds and we can do that for each other. In fact, I think it'd be really helpful. It helps me, when you texted me the other day and I was having such a crazy day, and even though I didn't get back to you, it was on my mind. I was like, oh, okay, Mitzi's doing this, and how am I doing, and what do I need to work on today? And it's helpful, I think, sometimes to know that somebody's doing it with you.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Definitely.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. All right, so how are you feeling?
Good.
Yeah, you seem kind of today.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's okay.
I noticed that earlier too, but.
Are you feeling negative and down, or just mellow?
Just mellow.
That's cool.
Yeah,
mellow's a good thing.
Nothing's wrong or happening or.
Okay, good. All right, well, let me know how things are going. Enjoy your trip. Are you able to text while you're on your trip?
Yes.
Okay, regular texting. Okay, good.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Well, then let's keep in touch with each other and enjoy your trip. Enjoy every part of it. Don't let anything hold you back. Just have a great time with your family.
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome.
Thank you.
Maybe I wish I could fit in your pocket.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Well, we'll just talk with you soon.
Okay. Merry Christmas.
Bye. Merry Christmas to you. That's right. Merry Christmas. See you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.